Hey girl, welcome to the Farmhouse Scullery, where I share inspirational conversations for a homesteading wife. Content tailored for you to get you to feel inspired, empowered, and motivated to fall in love with yourself more. You can find me on all socials with the handle at the Farmhouse Scullery. Please keep on listening for today's rant. Today on the show, I have an amazing woman. She is a multi-passionate entrepreneur and an intuitive business coach, rather fitting for this topic right now. I would like to introduce you to Viola Hug.
Hello, everyone.
I wondered if you might be able to start, V, by just giving us a bit of your backstory, who you are, where you grew up, and also what's led you to doing what you're doing now.
Okay, cool. I will give you the Cliff Notes version of the story. Otherwise, I would be here all day. But currently I'm in Budapest, and I'm not from Budapest. I am just traveling here because my husband and I have been traveling full time for the past 9 months or so. And before that, traveling just not full time. He's from New Zealand, which is where I met him and which is where I was living since I was 16, and I'm originally Canadian. And so we travel the world while we build our businesses online. I work as a coach and he does similar work to me, and we kind of dabble with a few other things. And it's like one of those lives where I'm like, oh my gosh, pinch me. Is this actually real? Oh my gosh. And like a constant smile on my face when I talk about what I'm actually doing and how I'm actually living my life now, because I've always been a massive dreamer. Like I remember when I was a kid, I had massive crazy dreams. Like I was always the kid saying, I'm going to do this when I grow up and I'm going to do that when I grow up. And so I always had these massive dreams. It's just that, life happens and then you kind of forget that these dreams are realistic for yourself. And I say that we forget that they're realistic because I honestly believe that if we have dreams and desires, they're meant for us. Mm-hmm. So they're completely realistic. It's just we forget sometimes. Mm-hmm. And then, I tried university for a while. Like I did go to university and study something that I was really, really interested in. But then when I left, I just knew I didn't want a job. My whole soul was rejecting the idea. And so I decided to start up an entrepreneurship. And I had such a good time, learning about business and getting into personal growth and personal development. And then that sort of eventually led me to launching my coaching business, which I did at the end of 2017.
Oh my gosh, yay. And I'm a proud client of yours. So thankful to have you in my life. It's amazing. So I am, as a lot of people know, I'm launching at the moment my first round of Intuition Institute, which is covering so many amazing topics, but really it's about teaching these women how to find their intuition and how to talk to it, how to test it, and what it does in your life. And it's because it's transformed my life totally from start to finish. How has intuition played a part in your life?
I feel like it's been everything, but also not something I've always known, if that makes sense. I talk about childhood a lot because I feel like when we were kids, we had more of a open connection to all of the things that we could do, and higher guidance, and however you kind of connect with that. And as a child, you are intuitive about things. And I think a lot of those dreams and desires I had were intuitive pulls for me to do something different with my life, and for me to really just build up desire and excitement about all the things I could do with my life. And so it was always there, and I would call myself quite often an intuitive person. If I walked into a house and I just had a feeling I didn't like this place, then it was we'd go do something different. Or for example, because we moved around so much, I went to 13 different schools in multiple different countries, just to give you perspective.
Wow.
We moved around, so much. And so we'd walk into a house and I'd be like, I don't like this place. Even though it would look like it had the features, and then later we'd find out it had mold in it, or it had I don't know, just heebie-jeebie vibes or whatever. And so I had intuition in that sense, but in actual intuition in terms of feeling daily guidance, how I use it now, is something that's more developed for me over time. And it was honestly my personal growth journey and just desiring to do more with my life that eventually I just stumbled upon it, which I really believe that a form of an intuitive practice will rise up for everyone if they're continuing to grow and explore and see how they can expand more, because I really do believe it's part of us. And so, yeah, I like stumbled upon it, and when I say stumbled upon it, it's just I started hearing conversation about a lot more people being like, oh, like I use my intuition to make decisions, and I'm like, what the heck does that mean? Like, I thought intuition was just like, you know, you get the heebie-jeebies and you leave. But yeah, and so I started learning more and dabbling, and now it's like how I make decisions. And it's like, you know, like even in coaching calls, like quite often, like someone will say something to me and I'll hear what they're saying, but I'll listen to what kind of intuitive feelings coming up. And that's usually exactly what the person needs to hear. And then in my own life, it's the same kind of thing. It's like when Nick and I are deciding where we want to travel to, it's what feels right. Like and when I left my job, that was another big one. It was like, it feels right, but it makes no freaking logical sense.
Yes.
And so
yes.
I like to be led by my intuition always, because I believe our intuition knows what's up. And if we can trust that, things work out for us a lot faster.
So just then I just really want to touch on, so you're just talking about like, it feels like you're chasing a feeling, right? But there's sort of like no logical reason why you should sort of be pursuing this. What are your top tips for like handling that situation where you're like wanting to jump, but then on the other hand you're like, oh my gosh, like this is insane, and then the other one on the other side you're like, oh, but it feels right. Like, how do you actually engage to make the jump?
Yeah, I think like the biggest attribute anyone can have when they're wanting to live a life led by intuition, or just even follow their kind of gut desires and their goals a little bit more, is courage, because it's not an easy thing. Like, I've never been like, oh, this feels like the easier option. You know, it's always felt like the way scarier option. But because, you know, 2012 is when I first got into business. So, I mean, I had a little bit, I think, of like building up, and it's so cool because I love the concept of being able to work with clients, because you can help them collapse time, so to speak, which is essentially like, it's taken me this long to be able to do it, but it's like you can now, because I've done it, I can help someone do it quicker.
Yes.
And so it took me a little bit of a while to like make those really big leaps. But then at the same time, I did quit my job and stuff really soon. But I've always been a little bit more brave. Like, I've always had a little bit more courage. And I don't really know where that comes from. Something that's coming to mind now is probably because like I had to move around so much. And so it's like, you know, like building courage to try and make new friends, dealing with being bullied and all those kinds of things, I guess, built up a little bit of like, I don't mind being different. Like, one day I'm going to have all the things I want anyway. Mindset, I don't know, maybe it was from that, maybe not. But yeah, so the first thing is courage. And then I always recommend that people put it into perspective, because when we're in that situation where it feels like, for example, with leaving my job, because I know that's a really big one, but it can even be something as small as like, I want to start my business. I want to, you know, I want to just do some personal development. Like, even that for a lot of people is like outside of their circle, right? Like outside of what they know. Like, none of their friends like read self-help books, and it's just like, you know, it can feel a little bit weird, but you kind of feel like you want to grow as a person. And regardless of what it is, it's like, you're so focused on right now, or you can be, that you forget that there's going to be a point in your life where you look back on this moment. And whether that moment is in a week, in a year, in 5 years, at the end of your life, when you're on your deathbed, you're going to be looking back at this moment. And how do you want to look back on this memory? Like, do you want to look back and be like, oh, I'm so glad I never tried anything, you know, like mediocrity was great all of my life.
Oh my God.
And I know this is extreme, but you can definitely enjoy your life. But, you know, I believe most people, like 95+% of people or more, live with untapped potential in their life. So, I mean, it's a huge thing. Or are you going to look back on that moment and you'd be like, you know what? I'm just so glad that I gave myself the shot. Like, if it didn't work out, you'd be like, man, I had balls back then. Like, look at me. Like, that's so cool. And if it works out, you'd be like, man, what was I ever worried about?
Yes, I'm like nodding so much. If this was a video, this would look shocking. I'm just like constantly nodding, like so agree with everything you've just said. Oh my gosh, yes, I absolutely love it, love it, love it, love it. As you were talking, I was thinking about how clients, like working with clients, and I was wondering, like you mentioned earlier about like my paraphrasing is that like using your intuition is sort of like reading between the lines of what they're saying / what they're really meaning and what you're feeling intuitively. Like, is that something that happens for you? And like, is that the biggest part that an intuitive led business coach, like, what is that what the biggest part is for you, like as an intuitive business coach?
I think so. Like, I guess like my perspective of what I do is like, I really love fusing the strategy side, because I still think like being strategic about it is important. But then also being totally led by like your intuitive areas of things. That's how you're really going to move into the direction that you really need to go. And the strategy is going to kind of help build you there. And so that's definitely an important part. On the actual intuitive side, it's listening more to how you feel about things. Like, for example, if someone's like pricing something, and they're like wanting to price a service, or they're wanting to price a program that they're launching, like a lot of people can be like, oh, what are other people pricing? What's the strategy? Or if they're wanting to up their prices, is a really big one as well. And they're like, I've been charging this amount, but I'm just feeling like I want to charge this amount now, but like, it doesn't make logical sense. Like, have I been doing it long enough? Do enough people know my name? Like, if I'm not maxed out at clients at this price, like, why would people pay more money for me? But it's like this intuitive feeling that you have, that you're just like now aligned with a different number to charge. And then it's like, in my perspective, in my world, I'm like, yeah, well then that's the right number to charge, because we're always like, in like our energy is always interacting with the world around us. And not just with charging, but with whatever we're doing, whenever we're making decisions to change things, even if we're like, it doesn't really make sense on paper, or like, how could I justify this? It's like, if our feelings pulling us towards that direction, it means that there's a new level of people that are wanting to connect with you at that stage. So it's like, step into that. Right?
Yeah.
And the same with like wanting to start a business. It's like, the reason you're getting that call, even though you don't have any background experience and you don't have lots of money to invest, like all the things you tell yourself, like if you're being called to it, there's a purpose for you being called to that space. Does that answer your question? I don't really know.
Yes. No, that was great. Yes, it did. And then it did even more. It was great. Okay. It did more than just answer that. Yes. I love that. I love it. So I have a question you may not have been asked before. What do you think the best part about using your intuition is?
Oh, I feel like this is just like, I don't know, this will maybe show you some of my personality too, but I think it's like sometimes so fun making decisions that other people are like, what the heck are you doing?
Yes.
And even though that like can be scary as well, like for a lot of people, they're like, oh, fear of judgment. I still have fear of judgment. Like, I want everyone to love me. I don't want people to think that I'm like crazy or weird or anything like that. But there's just like something I get out of it when I'm just like, make a crazy decision. Like when Nick and I decided to go traveling last year, we like had no savings. We banked on the fact that our business would sustain us and keep growing. And we're just like, oh, we're going to travel the world and build our business online. Oh, and we're going to sell all of our stuff and travel with carry-on only.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And that was kind of like, our intuition was telling us it was a good idea, but it was kind of just like, I had like kind of a smile on my face when I was telling people, because I'm like, this is so crazy. Like, no normal person would do this.
Oh, that's great.
Like defying those odds, I guess. And especially at the stage that I'm at now, where I've built up more confidence and stuff, it's like, I like showing people that you don't need to live the norm. Like, there's so much potential and opportunity out there for everyone. Like, I don't care what you say. Like, I believe that well, I do care about what you say, but in regards to that, that's what I believe to my core.
Yeah.
That there's so much potential and opportunity for people, and it's accessible for everyone.
Yeah. The whole norm thing really bugs me because it's like, there's billions of people and none of us are the same. So why do we have a normal? Like, it really, that we're trying to fit in a box and trying to follow what the other person's doing on Instagram. And it's just like, none of us should be trying to fit into normal. Like, we're all weird. Why are we like downplaying all these weird quirks about ourselves and stuff? Like, in my business, when I've started to become more successful, is when I'm like showing the weird quirky things and showing up my nostrils as being a weirdo on my story and stuff on Instagram, like, I was just so excited with this being weird, and like, people just love it, and it because you're relatable when you're not like everyone else, and that's the biggest thing, I think. And just general life, but also business as well, like not being like everyone else.
I feel like everyone has their own unique signature, and it's like, and that's why, like, you know, sometimes people are like, in like what you said in business, like people are like, oh, but the market's saturated, there's so many coaches, or there's so many business coaches, but then it's like, yeah, but there's no you, and there's a whole you know, like part of the population that needs you. They need to hear it from you and no one else.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yes. Well, thank you very much for coming on with me, Viola. I know my listeners would have absolutely loved hearing from you. Would you like to tell them where they can find you if they want to connect with you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm pretty easy to find because I have a unique name. So I am one of the blessed people that uses my name from every handle on every social media.
Yay!
So I hang out most on Instagram and Facebook, which you can find me at Viola Hug. And I have my website, violahug.com. And I also have a podcast. I have a Facebook group too, and you can find both of those under Abundant Babes. So Abundant Babes, a podcast for the visionary, and then the Facebook group is Abundant Babes, a home for the visionary. And I have a book on Amazon.
Yes, you do, and it's amazing.
Yeah, You Are an Abundant Babe. So those are kind of like my main things.
Cool. Well, go over and find her on your favorite platform. I know you would love her content. She puts out so much free content, so much amazing content, free or not, otherwise it's absolutely incredible. And once again, V, thank you so much for taking the time to be on here, and I will chat with you sometime soon.
I love you. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone who's listening as well.
No worries. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into this episode with the Funhouse Gallery. I've loved having you here. You know what? If you have a friend that you think would gain some value from this week's episode, I would be over the moon if you would share it with them. And if you want to leave an honest review, that would be amazing. Let's stay connected in other ways. I'm on social media, Facebook and Instagram. My handle is at the Funhouse Gallery. You can flick me a message, let me know what you liked about today's episode. I'm sending you so much love and happiness, and until next week, take care.